right, the fun part begins. We have been able to write system of equations for um, real world situations. So now we're getting to the fun part of writing systems of inequalities. I know how much you guys love inequalities. I love it too. All right, so let's get started. It works the same way with system of equations. We're going to write two inequalities. Obviously, we're not going to use the equal sign for now. We're going to use one of the four symbols for inequalities. But the concept is the same. You're going to use two variables for both inequalities, and we're going to be using, we're also going to be using the same process for equations where you can either write it as the total on one side, so the total on one side or the expenses on the other, or backwards, expenses on one side and the total on the other side. And again, I'm leaving the space empty in between because I don't know what kind of sign I'm going to use. But remember, we are not using the equal sign. Not the equal sign. I should not see the equal sign for these problems. And again, the problem itself, when you're reading them, they're going to tell you what kind of system you're going to use, an equation or inequalities. On the other problems, if you notice, it said equations. Let's read the problem and then you'll see what I'm talking about. All right. Again, make sure you highlight important information. It says dark chocolate costs $5.50 per pound. Don't forget that last semester I really emphasized this little word per. Remember, per means multiplication. That means that this is saying $5.50 times the pound. And remember, okay, the pound could be a variable. We don't know yet. We're going to keep reading. Milk chocolate costs $4.75 per pound. Again, per pound. So it's going to be $4.75 per times the pound. Okay. Next, you can spend no more than $10 on chocolate. Key information that you can spend no more than the $10 on chocolate. All right. And you need at least 2 pounds in all. All right. Key informations, I highlighted them already. The next thing that I told you in the other problems is that you need to highlight the numbers given to you, because the numbers given to you are part of the inequalities or equations that you're going to be writing. So you have 550, and because of the money sign, I know we're talking about money. 475, again, we're talking about money because of that sign. $10, again, I know it has to do with money because of the sign of the symbol. And then we have 2. 2 doesn't have the money sign, so that means that it's talking about something else. Well, what is it? Well, it's 2 pounds. All right, so then there you go. I have enough information of what kind of two inequalities I'm going to write. The first one has to be about money, and the next one has to be about pounds. All right, let's work with the first one. And I'm actually going to be writing this as expenses first and the total on the right side. Again, you can write it wherever you want. Doesn't matter. All right, I'm going to write the expenses. Well, I know it's saying dark chocolate costs $5.50 per pound. That means that I'm going to be using the variable x for, and again, these are my variables. So every time they're asking you what is a variable, you have to describe it. I'm going to use x for pounds for dark chocolate. Okay. So the first part of my equation here, inequality is 550, and it's saying per pound, right? And I even wrote it on the top of here, times pound, 550 per pound. And then right here, I'm going to be writing times x, which is a pound. Again, do I have to write the multiplication symbol in between? No, I can just write the x next to it. It means the same thing, 550 times x. And I know I'm going to be adding something else. I'm going to be adding the milk chocolate, which costs $4.75 per pound. So there you go. I'm going to use the letter M for pound for milk chocolate. All right, so it's going to be 475 times M. And I know that it has to be the money total spent has to be no more than $10. Remember, I cannot put the equal sign. They did not spend exactly $10. That's what equal means. They are saying that they can spend no more than 10. That means that the total has to be big because it's saying no more, and expenses have to be small. Again, because I'm writing the expenses on the left side, that means the symbol I'm gonna use is the less than or equal to. Equal to what? To $10. Remember when we have or inequality signs, the mouth open is where it's their big side and the other side has to be the small side. Your monster is always eating your big side. Remember that. So it's saying that you can't spend no more than 10. That means that the expenses have to be less than your total amount. And I'm using the less than or equal because it can actually be equal to 10. Okay, I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying that it can be equal or less than $10. All right, the next one, the next inequality is talking about pounds. Well, what kind of pounds are we talking about? Well, I even wrote the inequality, the variable, sorry. X, pounds of dark chocolate, and pounds for milk. That means that it's going to be X plus M, and the total, not the total, but at least 2 pounds. I know the total for the pounds is 2. Now let's focus on the sign. What kind of symbol I'm going to use? Well, it's saying at least. At least means that it has to reach 2 pounds, but it can be more than that. However, it cannot be less than 2 pounds. That means that total has to be has to be less. And then the expenses has to be more. So which sign? That means that the expenses has to be more. The monster has to be eating the expenses. So there you go. Monster eats the expenses and it's equal because it could be equal to 2 pounds, but the pounds can be more. So the total of pounds could be more. So the expenses of the pounds of X and M can be more than the 2. All right, this question I know might struggle for some of you guys. If you do not understand it, please ask questions. Okay, make sure you know how to understand this. I know we struggle on this one for our target last semester. So those are systems of inequalities. As you can see, we use the same variable for both inequalities. We have 2 inequalities, so that makes it a system of inequalities.